everybody, and happy Peppy Tuesday to you. That song always gets me going. How about you, Heather?
It does me as well. Yes.
Makes me do a silly little dance, which gets me in a good mood. Hi, everybody. I'm Jen, and this is Brain Balance Live with the fabulous, talented, very smart, brainiac of brains, Heather Wells. Heather is a certified cognitive specialist, a therapist. She is integral at her brain balance centers in Texas. I'm jealous of all you that are in Texas and can see her regularly, but this is where we come each week to talk about tools to help parents get through their crazy busy lives, just even the slightest bit easier. So Heather, thank you so much for joining me again for another week of this. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone who's tuning in. I love sharing this time with everyone.
It's awesome. And yeah, that is actually bringing up a good point. If you guys are here and you have a question about what Heather is talking about, or even if you have an offshoot that kind of goes into a different topic, we can always take that topic and make a new live about it the next time. So we definitely love your feedback, love your questions. And Heather is so good about answering them. So please, please, please type things in the comments as they come to you. Heather, what are we going to be talking about this week?
Today, we're going to talk about how to raise kids who don't give in to peer pressure. And really, we almost should call it peer influence because there are many things that can influence our kids, even when it's not overt pressure. There are a lot of forms of this that are not obvious. And we know that in today's world, kids have all the things that we face, but then there's also social media and the pressure to be perfect, which adults feel sometimes as well. Being influenced by the way someone is dressing, perhaps, without anyone actually telling them to dress that way. There are so many different ways to look at this. And really, that is kind of what the first slide is about, is the different types of peer pressure that are not obvious. So if Beth can pull that up. Peer pressure is not always verbal or direct. I think the first thing that comes in our minds might be, come on, everybody's doing it. It's not gonna, that kind of thing. It can be unspoken. Sometimes there is an unspoken understanding that if you don't do this with us, you're going to be excluded. So, it can be implied or it can be verbal in the type that we usually think about. And sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes there's nothing obvious about it. If you don't give in right away, then they move to a sneakier tactic. Who's it going to hurt? Nobody's going to know. You said no to the first thing, but then it becomes more and more subtle. And in a developing brain, with or without neurodiverse struggles, that can be, yeah, that's true. It's not going to hurt anybody. But it's important to understand that peer pressure is not just about, there's not always a black and white, right and wrong answer. That is really hard for rigid thinkers. If you have kids out there who see everything black and white, I'm right, you're wrong. This is the rule. They didn't follow it the way I think they should. A lot of times oppositional defiant types of behavior come in if you have rigid thinkers. That means they have a lack of connectivity in the brain. We need to grow more neural pathways so they can see the nuances of situations. They can see the big picture, the context, consequences, cause, effect. But sometimes there isn't a right and a wrong, and that's even harder. That's a more nuanced thing that a lot of our kids with ADHD on the spectrum, a lot of those types of things may have difficulty. It's anything you do that you wouldn't otherwise do so that you'll feel liked, accepted, a part of something. And so that may sound innocuous, but not necessarily. Our kids, in general, when you're tweens and teens, it's hard. You're trying to figure out who you are apart from the other kind of, apart from labels people ascribe to you and so forth. Who am I in my heart and my core? But it's like the frog in the frying pan. I say yes to something I really don't want to do so they'll like me. And the more I do that, I become somebody else's yes man.
Yeah.
And I'm getting further and further away from who I am, So yeah. I wanted to do this extracurricular, but I'm doing this one because they thought that one was not cool enough. And once I'm in that, then I'm exposed to more things that aren't really me. And then you go down this path and you wonder, where is the intrinsic motivation? They seem lazy, apathetic. So decisions matter. It's not just right and wrong. And it's not always negative. This is a good one. Peer pressure can be positive. Peer influence can be positive. Hanging out with the right people can mean more involvement in school, getting involved in activities you do care about, being more assertive. You can have a friend who says, stand up for yourself. You don't have to take that kind of, treatment. And this is such a good motivating thing. If you have kids who try to be in charge at home, you can appeal to that and say, you have such a strong point of view. We're going to be a leader. You be the person who's the positive influence. Give them that type of reputation to live up to. It's not always about doing something against one's will. Sometimes they just broke them down. I mean, sometimes kids will very willingly say yes, so it doesn't mean the other person even had to apply pressure. All of these are peer influence that can be dangerous.
Yeah.
So I just kind of want
to. So much sense.
Yeah, because it's just not always here. Smoke a joint, like things that are.
And it's not even always like bad intention necessarily. It's just everybody's an individual and has a different idea about what they're okay with doing.
Yeah, it can even be sit with us at lunch. Don't sit with Justine. She won't care.
Yeah.
Oh, they want me to sit with them at lunch.
Right.
And really may not even, the tricky thing is there are so many decisions that have to be made so quickly. We have some kids who are impulsive and make them too quickly. We have others who just struggle with seeing all the different factors involved and might not think to invite Justine to sit with them. And then that group might say, no, we don't really want her sitting with us. Well, I'm not doing anything mean to Justine. I am agreeing to be their friend and hang out with them. So many things to think about. And these are the types of conversations. It's really important for us to educate ourselves and our kids on what peer pressure looks like. And we want to start early. Yeah. We want to start early. So, say, hey, as you get older, you're going to be facing some tough decisions. Sometimes friends are going to ask you to do things that you don't want to do. It's good to start addressing it early so that when the time comes, it's not an emotional conversation.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on. And so looking at peer pressure, peer influence, it's hard on everyone. In any teen or tween, it's even harder if you do have neurodiverse struggles like ADHD, sensory processing struggles, sometimes learning challenges, etc. Think about impulsivity. You might have a child who has a lot of logic, a lot of reasoning ability, but they don't hit the brake pedal and they just fly to action. And they don't even think for a second about consequences or how it might make someone else feel. Cognitive inflexibility. I mean, we kind of already talked about that one, but that one's not just about everything's right, everything's wrong. Cognitive flexibility allows me to think about all kinds of different ways to handle this situation. And in real time, we're doing this all day, every day when our brains work properly. They may only be able to see one path. I either say yes and this happens, or I say no and this happens. There are a lot of in-between paths as well. Decreased sense of self. I don't even know what I do care about. So I'm going to be a chameleon and blend into whatever they say is cool. And that, if kids are struggling with neurodevelopmental struggles, they almost certainly do not have the same level of being in touch with who they are in a lot of ways. I mean, that's not a statement that applies to everyone, but the majority of the kids we see do have, if I'm not in touch with my body awareness and sensory stuff, I'm also not in touch with the deeper parts of me. So if I don't know what I care about, I just roll with the tide, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
All right. Poor social skills. This is a lot of things. I don't fit in. I will do anything to fit in. Or I know I want to say no, but I don't know how to say it. And they may handle it in a way that, no, that's dumb. And good for them for standing up, but then it's off-putting. And so they need practice on how to approach it, how to be assertive without being, you can be assertive and respectful. I almost did a slide on this and I think being assertive, that could go into a whole social communication show that could be its own thing. Yeah. Anxiety, depression, any sort of mental health struggles. So many neurodiverse issues have comorbid conditions, coexisting struggles. About 40% of, and it may even be higher, it depends on which research you look at. I've seen 40, I've seen 65% of those with ADHD have anxiety. Sometimes it's even misdiagnosed as ADHD when it is anxiety. But you can be anxious in all scenarios. It might be in social settings. If I'm anxious about something, I start ruminating. And if I say no, they think of the worst case scenario and just it spins and spins and spins. Or they get paralyzed and they end up going along with it just because they couldn't even get the word. If you have kids, what's wrong? very articulate most of the time, but when it comes to something emotional, they don't know what to say. You can be paralyzed and then sort of almost by default end up going with it. Or you become so overwhelmed that you say yes, even when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Depression, anhedonia, sort of a numbness. I don't care about anything. So who cares what the effect is?
Yeah.
I'm so, depression is beyond sadness. Depression is, I'm numb. I don't care about anything. And I've talked to people in the past where I'd give anything if I didn't. I feel such intense sadness. I want to be numb. That is a deeper level of despair and hopelessness. If nothing matters, then what difference does it make what choice I make? Now, think about all the information that comes in that helps us make decisions on a daily basis. If I am missing some of those pieces, then it can misinform the decision I make. I can miss the way somebody said something. I thought they were really being nice to me, but they said it in a snarky way, and now I think they're my friend. And so I'm going to say yes to this. I miss that eye roll. Or I think I am oversensitive. Somebody sighed, and I think they're disgusted with me, so I'll do anything to make it right and to earn their approval. We got to have kids who can think about the details involved in a decision and see the big picture. Look at it from different vantage points. What's another way of thinking about this? What's the cause effect? What effect does this have on my future, on my family? How is it going to make my friend feel that it's being left out? There are so many factors. And if you're putting together a puzzle and you're missing certain pieces, you miss the end result. So I could go on, but I just wanted to show you how, if you have kids who are struggling with learning or attention or regulation, impulsivity, peer pressure is a much, much bigger risk factor even for them.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I know I've shown you this before, but this 98 to 99% of adolescents and adults with ADHD or different executive function struggles have rejection sensitivity dysphoria, real or perceived. Rejection is debilitating. You see in this picture, this guy has gotten lots of positive feedback all day long. One person told him he can be a jerk sometimes, and that is what keeps him awake at night. All the other positive, our brains have a negativity bias. Our brains are wired to filter out the positive and hone in on the negative, because the negative is the thing that needs to be fixed.
Right.
And so if I am holding on to that, that is going to make me much more likely to be a people pleaser or to opt out of the things I do care about. Rage, suicidal ideation, peer pressure. So I wanted to just, because we talk about this all the time, it fits so nicely into this topic, I had to just throw that in there. 98 to 99% real or perceived rejection. And so, all right, let's move on. But the people pleasing is a big one. I don't know who I am, so I just say yes to everything. I am a human doing, not a human being. I am not good enough. So therefore, you tell me to jump and I say how high. People pleasers also avoid asking for help. If they find out I'm struggling, they'll know I'm not good enough. My parents think I'm smart. If I let them know the reason I didn't turn that in wasn't because I was being difficult, it's because I have no clue what's going on there. I'm taking away the one positive they think I have. They think I'm a problem child. Please keep that in mind, not just on a peer pressure conversation. So many times kids shut down because they don't want you to know they're struggling. That can also be with a friendship. That's why it's so important to have daily check-ins, daily conversations, so that when the big stuff happens, it's so natural to have those non-judgmental, calm, safe conversations. Saying no, if I disagree, they will exclude me. I don't deserve a point of view of my own. So the only way to be good enough is to agree with them. Expressing emotion. If I shove down my feelings, they'll like me more. We have some who are having the outburst. We have some who seem flat. Mm-hmm. They are internalizing it. It doesn't mean those big emotions aren't there. And I mean, I know a lot of you watching, I would give anything if my kids would shove down just a little bit. That would really help me a lot. But this is so unhealthy. This is more highly predictive of bigger issues down the road than the ones who are given the big outbursts.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking to myself the other day, my 6-year-old was having a meltdown, and so far he hasn't shown to be anything different than neurotypical, but he was upset about something, and he was allowing himself to just go to that back part of his brain that you talk about and just lose his mind, and you couldn't calm him down. He wasn't ready yet. And I was telling myself over and over again, this is good. He's learning how to cope with this emotion. This is good. I just kept telling myself, this is fine. I just have to be here for him and just let him know I'm here. But this is good for him. He's learning.
Right. You got to play some music, get that little one dancing, and then everything's good. That was the cutest video. People pleasers often avoid failing. If I fall short, I'm a total failure and they won't love me. So if you have kids who are opting out, the peer pressure could even be skip school. Sometimes it's not doing something as much as it is doing something. It's cool to not care about your grades. It's cool to, oh, that's dumb, So keep that in mind too. Failing. If I fall short, I'm a total failure. And so is it really that they don't care? Is it that they're lazy or unmotivated? Or is that a maladaptive protection of what little bit of self-worth I'm trying to hang on to?
Yeah.
And so I opt out. And it's very easy for kids to talk me into not studying. Okay, let's move on. So how to help kids avoid becoming a people pleaser? I know the first one is obvious, express unconditional love, but we know that, and we do love our kids unconditionally, but sometimes we have to be more overt in expressing it so that they know that. In the midst of a heated discussion, hopefully they're not too heated because you give yourself settling time, all the things we talk about regularly. But even in the moment, honey, we're disagreeing right now. I love you even when we disagree. They need to hear that overtly. We know it, so we may not think to say it. So that's really what I mean by this is very intentionally conveying that. Not, I love you anyway. That's like, I'm throwing you a bone. Good for me. I'm such a good person. I love you, even though I shouldn't. Yeah. So be careful how you word that. They need to know we don't have to agree on everything. That does not impact love at all.
Yeah.
Help them establish boundaries, even with you. Yes, even with you. And what I mean by that needs to be respectful. There is a way to do it, and you need to overtly teach them how to do it respectfully. But let's just say you're like, come on, give me a hug. No, I don't want to. And you maybe just sort of are forcing the hug because I would want a hug in this scenario, and you think you're doing the right thing. We have to allow them. I know you don't feel like hugging right now. How about a high five, fist bump, that kind of thing? So let them know it's okay to say no. If you're respecting their body boundaries with you, they can respect their body boundaries with someone else.
Yeah.
And encourage them to self-advocate. Speak up because your needs matter. Of course they do. Why would I have to tell them that? Because they don't know. They believe that they are not good enough, and what they think, feel, want doesn't matter. And I really, you need to talk to them about how to be assertive. Being assertive means I am respecting you, but also standing up for my beliefs on this. And I think I'm going to do a whole show on that. I just think that's a really important one because self-advocacy, whether it is getting support for schoolwork or peer pressure or in life, is just it's one of the most valuable life skills we can teach our kids. And one of the ones that is lacking in those with neurodevelopmental struggles. Okay. Go on. Let's move on. All right. What about, do any of your kids have friends that you're kind of concerned about, that you don't necessarily approve of? What we do not want to do is to tell them that they are forbidden from seeing a certain friend. You stay away from them or you're going to turn out just like them. If we speak badly about their friends, human nature, especially in the tween-teen brain, is that they're going to want to spend time with them more. What you think matters the most, even when they act like it doesn't, but overtly in these years, friend opinions steer the ship more. You can make that not so much the case by having open, non-judgmental conversations. Listen calmly. Listen with the intent to understand instead of reprimand. If they think they're going to get in trouble for something they share, it doesn't feel safe and they're going to shut down. But gently help them see the negative influence. So, I'm kind of concerned. Have you noticed how much y'all fight? You're not talking bad about that person. You're opening up. Why do you think that is? You can help them to start to see that that person's not bringing out the best in them help them come to that conclusion without you having to say it. Do not talk badly about their friends. Discuss your behavioral concerns and what makes a good friend. So if they're skipping school and their grades are sliding, I'm concerned about this. You want to be an engineer. You said when you grow up and you're starting to fail this class, how is that going to impact your goals? You seem sadder lately, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a defiant thing. Talk about behavior without saying that horrible friend's fault. But talk to them about what makes a good friend. They may not know the difference. A friend is anybody who will hang out with me. No, a friend has your best interest at heart. A friend respects what you want. They support you in your goals, etc.
That's a tough one. The tween teen one is really tough, especially if you're hearing things that you think, oh, that child probably needs to talk to somebody about some of these things going on in their life, and you don't know if they are. And so you're going, oh, like, you're not a therapist, child. Like, you can't help this person get through this thing that they're going through. And yet you're like, I don't know how to steer you to, like, tell them to tell their parents they need to talk to somebody.
See, and that's so hard because that is one of those nuanced things we were talking about. That's not black and white. Friends support one another. Well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yes, but this is sort of next level. That is one reason it is so important to get to know the parents whenever possible.
Okay.
You invite them over and give them space, but also keep an eye on things. Find out. Don't assume maybe the other parent doesn't know about a situation going on. Are y'all on the same page or not? Do you have the similar values? You don't have to agree on everything, but as it pertains to the welfare of your child, it's pretty important.
Yeah.
And so having them come over, we think of play dates when kids are little. No, it doesn't stop there. I would say it's even more important in the tween and teen years to
really smart.
Get some sort of relationship with the parents going on some level.
Yeah.
Even if for whatever reason you can't get together in person, having a phone call. Hey, I know our kids are hanging out. I wanted to introduce myself, get to know you a little bit. And then maybe you can establish some rules that both kids will agree to, that both parents agree to have the kids abide by, regardless of whether they're at their house or your house. And then you can have some peace of mind. Or you get the sense that, okay, we're not on the same page. And then you go from there.
Yeah.
The other reason we don't want to talk badly about the parents, besides the fact that it's not just a super nice thing to do, is that kids will hear us talking badly about them, just like if we talk badly about a teacher. And then we are modeling for them gossip. Yeah. We are modeling for them speaking badly about people. So then at school, when they hear somebody gossiping about someone, they may be more likely to join in. Those aren't exactly the same thing, but can they really tell the difference?
Yeah.
There's too much overlap there. You want kids to come over because that's how you pay attention to dynamics, not just what the person looks like, not just the behavior, but what are the dynamics that start showing you patterns of, you know what, they kind of run over my son.
Yeah.
I wonder if my son even realizes that. You start seeing the patterns and what those conversations specifically need to be about. But talking badly or forbidding friendships is just almost a surefire way that they're going to spend more time with them. So find another way. Help them come to the conclusion and make better choices. Okay, let's move on. All right, now they're going to be hanging out. They're going to a party. Come up with a game plan in advance. And these are things you want to practice a lot. You're building neural pathways in there. See, that's what my little brain over there is doing. So social scripts. If they're going to a party on a Friday night, depending on age, and nowadays age doesn't even matter as much. Might there be alcohol there? Think about what the potential scenarios are, and even role play those scenarios. Hey, have a drink. Oh, one drink doesn't do anything. Nobody's going to know. And have them respond, or they can be the one applying peer pressure, and you're the one responding. We are sort of creating neural pathways in their brain that they practice, so that when the time comes, they don't have to think through all the things and try to find the words in the moment. I'm anxious and not even accessing my decision-making logic and language skills right now. it becomes more like muscle memory and it flows
Yeah.
off their tongue. Topical social emotional books, Publishers Weekly or Amazon, you can put in specific topics you're concerned about. Freespirit.com, they were bought out, so they're going to a different name, but still, if you go to their site, you can look up specific topics you're concerned about, whether it has to do with drugs, alcohol, gossip, any kind of peer pressure of any kind, and they were divided by age groups. But as you're reading social emotional books, have you ever faced anything like that? How did you handle it? Is there anything you would do differently? Or that's even a time to bring up, do you think this friend has this character, talking about the characters, do you think Tommy has Billy's best interest at heart? Why not? Mm-hmm. And so that you're taking the emotion out of it, they can access their logical brain and they will then apply it to their lives. What about how to say no? That's not just say no. Kids don't have to give a reason. They need to know that they don't need to justify their no to anyone. A lot of parents find it helpful to say, you can make me the bad guy. Mm-hmm. And so it can be something like, or if they have allergies, I don't want to smoke. We want them to stand up and not do it because it's not best for their bodies. It's not true to who they are. But we also have to meet had you rather them say no for a reason that's true, but not the absolute best reason, or not say no at all. And then as we grow their no muscle, they can become more and more assertive about why they're saying no. My parents will ground me for a month if I do this. I'm not doing that. Mm-hmm. That's not we want them to get to the next level, but if they are saying yes to everything, this is a good starting point. Meet them where they are. I feel so conflicted about that because I just want them to say no and say the real reason no. But I also I'm really conflicted about this, but I also know this works. Yeah. It grows their no muscle. And then as they become stronger, they become much more vocal about where they stand on things.
And then you just become like a parent and you say no to everything before you even think about it.
Right.
And then you say, oh, no, wait, okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I think in these scenarios, we want them to say no a little too quickly. They say no to they say no to parents. Why is it so hard to say no to their peers sometimes, this is a big safety tip. Have a code word when they need you to come get them. If something's going on, it's making you uncomfortable. And I mean, this could be something a boy is doing to a girl or vice versa, but it mostly happens the other, it can be just that any activities going on that's making them uncomfortable. They know that you will be their Uber driver. No questions asked in that moment at all. No questions asked, parents. Yes, really. And we'll finish this thought in a minute, but have them say a code word. I mean, something that probably, I talked about how you can say silly code words when people in the heat of the moment at home and make people laugh. But in this case, it probably needs to be a more subtle code word because people might be listening in. Keep in mind when kids are calling you to pick them up, there might be somebody listening. Right. And so have a code word that they say, and that means come get me. And when you pick them up, you love on them. You are so proud of them for making the right decision. That was such a good choice you made to have me come pick you up. You don't even have to ask questions in that moment. Just let them feel your love and support. Now they feel belonging. Later on, after things have cooled off, might be good to have conversations. But even then, not think about this. If they get in trouble for going to a place that you find out later they knew that was going to happen, ultimately they didn't do it. Focus on the win in that. Because if they ultimately get in trouble, how likely are they to be honest with you next time? You know what I mean? So, and work on living through others' reactions. In advance and when it happens, let them know that a true friend will never deny their friendship because they said no to something that the friend tried to talk them into doing. Yeah. A good friend will respect that. A good friend will even be grateful for the positive influence you are on them. You can talk to them about how it is okay to redefine relationships. People grow and change. Maybe this is a friend that you say hi to in the hallway, but you don't want to hang out with as much. And the more they can come to that conclusion their own as you define friendship and what it really means, the better. Because again, you don't want to badmouth friends, but you're talking about what a good friend is, and have them, after you talk about that, is Stacy a good friend? Why or why not? You know, and some people, we teach them loyalty. We talk about all these. If I'm a rigid thinker and you taught me to be loyal, we've always been friends. If I am no longer a friend who hangs out with her, I'm being disloyal. That really is the way that inflexible thinkers may think. And so they might have a good reason. I don't want to hurt her feelings. That's great. But you've got to talk about, sometimes you're choosing between good, better, best. And you can even talk about how to gracefully exit, and even have social scripts for that. I love you. I care about you. I will always want the best for you. Right now, we're kind of going in different directions, and I'm not going to go to parties where there's that kind of activity going on. Yeah. So, just have those social scripts too. All right, let's move on. All right, some other tips here. I think, in case have I mentioned open, safe, non-judgmental conversations? I knew I was already going to say that by the time we got here, but I wanted it in writing. If those conversations but again, one way to have open, safe, non-judgmental conversations when the tough stuff is happening is by having them every day when there isn't anything identifiable that you need to work through. Because now that's what we do. It doesn't feel intrusive that my parents are asking me lots of questions. They always ask me what my favorite part of the day was, what my toughest part of the day, what did you learn today, what was funny. So now it just feels natural that you're asking me about the party. Parent-child journal. If there is some sort of gridlock or just sort of paralysis on these conversations, kids can write to you. You non-judgmentally respond in a journal. You give them quotes. You give them things that are related. And that gives a little degree of separation, and it helps kids process. Maybe kids aren't saying anything because they can't get the words out, but the act of writing can help bring the story that they want to share with you. And now I'm not having to look you in the eye as I say it, because I'm actually kind of embarrassed about this, or something like that. A lot of times kids engage in peer pressure because they're bored, because they just want to try new things. And it's just like school, homework, soccer practice, school, homework, soccer practice. And I needed a little, zest. Individuals with ADHD often have lower dopamine, and that is a reward, feel-good chemical, and they are seeking that rush. So if you allow them to try new things, they are getting that dopamine rush without it being something unhealthy. There is research about, there's a lot of good that comes out of boredom, a lot of creativity, but also, are they being stimulated enough in positive ways? When I engage in new activities, I'm growing new neural pathways. It's expanding me to a wider social network. So if some friendships fall through, I have others with similar interests. We already have some good talking points and some bonding over the shared interests that we have. Growth mindset activities. Just because you're struggling right now, it means you're not quite there yet. Set goals that are kid steered. We've talked about goals in the past couple of weeks, so I won't go into great detail. But when kids have something they're excited about, that they're shooting for, looking forward to, that gives them another reason to say no to the things that are going to get them further from their goals. When they're pursuing goals in a growth mindset, they are growing executive function abilities. They are growing cognitive flexibility, the ability to see the big picture and details and perspective, that kind of thing. Compromise. There may be some things you're not crazy about, but saying yes to some things kids will feel some control, and they'll fight you less on other things. If they want a certain haircut, it's their hair. Maybe it's okay, right? I mean, that's just an example. I wish they wouldn't wear jeans with holes in. I mean, whatever your preference is. If there are things that they really do want to do, and they're not just doing it to please somebody else, even if they are, and that one really isn't hurting someone else, let them have some yeses from the parents. Give kids responsibility and connect it to independence. When we give kids responsibilities, it can be chores, it can be opportunities to earn independence, like they get to borrow the car because once they do XYZ, it proves that they are growing in responsibility. Again, you're growing all of the pathways in the brain that they need to make the right decisions and to not give in to peer influence. A lot of kids don't realize that when I do these things, I am demonstrating responsibility. Therefore, my parents are going to trust my judgment more over here. So that gives them a very intrinsic motivation for growing in responsibility. Cultivate confidence and self-love. We've talked about negative ruts of thinking. There are 9 very identifiable: all or nothing, catastrophizing, being a mind reader, etc. I've gone through this before. Shaming statements. Know what your kids' negative statements are and counter those. Have them write them down, counter them with what they know to be true. I love the idea of having them draw a pie chart. Have them draw a pie chart if you know they're struggling, and have them sort of put pieces of the pie of what things attribute to how they see themselves. Appearance, how sporty they are, intelligence, their social standing, and what percentages. Of course, this doesn't have to be exact, but bigger pieces of the pie for the things that weigh in the most heavily. And that gives you a starting point. That a lot of twins and teens are very capable of doing that. It doesn't mean it's going to be exactly accurate, but they can start seeing what is weighing into how they feel about themselves. Comments of others, that's something to definitely work on. And let's see, keep track of alcohol and prescriptions. By the way, it is it 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 twins and teens who turn to alcohol and drugs say they did it after losing their parents' respect.
Wow.
And so we have to do such a good job of letting them know that we love and respect the person, that when we are giving correction, it is about choices and decisions. It is about an extraneous action that is separate from who they are. And the number one place that kids access alcohol and drugs is right inside the house. And these could be prescriptions that someone else in the family needs, and then they start taking them. It could be pain pills. Be sure those things are locked away, out of reach. Be sure your kids know the difference.
I saw a funny meme over the holidays that said, my mom tried to offer me the vodka from her house, but I didn't take it because I knew that I had it was mostly water because I had taken it when I was in high school or something like that. But I'm like, yeah, it's probably accurate.
Right. Okay. I don't know if there's anything. Yeah. Just to kind of round it out, some messages kids need is, I am confident you will make the right decision. Don't say that if you don't mean it. A lot of kids aren't in a place yet where you can honestly say that. But if you have kids who are mostly on track, they need to hear that. And you are giving them a reputation to live up to. When you have confidence in them, it instills more confidence in themselves. You are capable. Use your judgment instead of letting others determine your actions. The thing that's so powerful about this one, besides it's just a good message, is kids want to feel in control. And by helping them realize they are less in control when others govern their actions, there can almost be this stubborn thing that kicks in where they want to prove that they're in charge of themselves, not that other person.
Yes.
So you can kind of use some psychology on them, but it's effective and it's true.
Yeah.
Is this decision based on fear of not being accepted or fear of being picked on? If there's real bullying going on, this opens up that conversation, and that's important. It's also, is that a good enough reason? Ask them. And if so, why? And then I would argue that, that's not really a strong reason, and here's why.
Yeah.
If they start realizing anytime I do something just to be accepted, that's not a reason to do something, they may not even have stopped to think about that.
Yeah.
If it feels wrong, it probably is. What an easy mantra for them to really start getting ingrained. If they can't put their finger on why they shouldn't do it, they may do it because they like literal and concrete, so many of our kids, if they struggle with nuances. But if it feels wrong, don't do it. Stay true to your values and your moral code. Make sure they know what those are. If they don't, that is neurodevelopment usually. Before you act, think. I love this one. This is my favorite. Is the choice I'm about to make getting me closer to the best version of myself? Have your kids think about their future selves. You can download an app on your phone, have them take a picture, and it ages it, and treat future self as a friend. Treat present self as a friend, for that matter, in growing self-love. What would you say to someone you love who's feeling the way you're feeling right now. Teach them to treat themselves as a friend right now, and introduce them to future self. Is what I'm doing getting me closer to the best version of myself? You were born to shine. You have so many gifts, and I want, make the decisions that are going to help you get there. All right.
Okay. All of that was like so helpful. If you are coming to the end of this and you have any questions, please, Heather answers all of the direct messages and things that are sent. You can see here her handle on Facebook. She can also be found on Instagram as well, and take down these phone numbers. If you or one of your children you think might need an assessment to get some treatment at Brain Balance Centers, because I'm telling you, it is life-changing. Heather, do you have any other lives this week?
Dr. Brian and I will be back Thursday at 1 o'clock.
Thursday at 1 o'clock. All right, so we'll see you Thursday at 1 o'clock, and then we'll be back here next Tuesday with a new topic to discuss. And until then, we'll see you next time. Bye, Heather.
Bye, Jen. Bye, everyone. Have a great